For nearly 5 centuries, they were the ultimate spectacle of the Roman Empire, the gladiators. They were slaves, criminals, and sometimes free men who traded their lives for glory and the roar of the crowd. But what was the true cost of this entertainment? Beyond the myth and the Hollywood sheen, what was the brutal reality of their existence? This is the story of the men and women who lived and died on the crimson sands of the arena. The tradition began not as entertainment, but as a solemn rite. The first gladiatorial games, or munera, were funeral offerings where armed combat was performed to honor the dead nobility. By the 1st century BC, the munus had been transformed into a political tool. Hosting spectacular games was the surest way for ambitious politicians to win the favor of the populace and ascend to power. This obsession culminated in the Flavian amphitheater, the Colosseum, the largest arena ever built, capable of holding 50,000 screaming spectators. It was here, in Rome's beating heart, that a slave's life became a matter of public theater. Before the arena came the ludus, the gladiator school, for men torn from their homes as captives or sold into slavery for debt. This was their new, terrifying reality. Life in the ludus was harsh, governed by the lanista, the owner and manager. The gladiator was his property, his investment, and his fighting machine. Discipline was brutal, enforced by whips and chains, yet surprisingly their diet and medical care were often better than that of the average Roman citizen. Gladiators were an expensive asset, and they had to be kept alive, healthy, and strong for the next fight. Their diet was rich in carbohydrates and calcium, a barley gruel and beans diet often nicknamed the barley eaters. Training was a relentless cycle. They learned to fight using wooden weapons against a heavy pole, the palus, and were matched against opponents with different complementary skill sets. It was a precise, calculated science of combat. The ultimate sign of a graduate was the rudis, a wooden sword given to a gladiator upon his freedom. To be a rudiarius was to have survived long enough to earn the most precious commodity of all, liberty. However, the path to the rudis was paved with blood, and many never made it out alive. The greatest threat to the empire, the man who showed the true potential of a trained gladiator, was Spartacus. Gladiatorial combat was not a free-for-all. It was a clash of specialized styles, a meticulously curated pairing of fighter classes to ensure maximum dramatic effect. Every piece of armor, every weapon was designed for a specific kind of duel. First, the myrmio, a heavily armed fighter distinguished by his large, crested helmet and oblong shield, the scutum. He was often pitted against the agile thraex. The thraex, or thracian, used a small round shield, and the menacing curved sica, a weapon designed to bypass a large shield and strike an unarmored back. Perhaps the most iconic pairing was the retiarius against the secutor. The retiarius, the netman, fought with minimal armor, only a leather arm guard and a metal shoulder guard. His weapons were a net, a trident, and a dagger. His perpetual rival, the secutor, the pursuer, was the perfect counter. The secutor's smooth, round helmet with its small eye holes minimized the risk of getting tangled in the net, and he carried a large shield and a short sword. Other classes included the hoplomachus, armed like a Greek hoplite, the eques on horseback, and even the rare gladiatrix, female fighters whose boldness challenged Roman social norms before their fighting was ultimately banned. The day of the games was a ritual of anticipation and bloodlust. It began with the pompa, a lavish procession into the arena to parade the gladiators and their sponsors before the crowds. But the gladiators' day started not with a procession, but with an early morning feast, a final meal, the Cena Libra, where they were allowed one last taste of luxury and freedom before the probable end. The games themselves were an all-day affair. They began with the venationes, the brutal hunts where hunters or venatores battled exotic beasts imported from the far corners of the empire. Midday often brought the executions or meridiani, where criminals were subjected to horrific public deaths, often torn apart by animals, ensuring a constant flow of violence before the main event. Finally, the air would crackle with expectation. The gladiators entered the arena, raising their arms in the famous salute, Ave Imperator morituri te salutant. Hail, Emperor, those who are about to die salute you. The fight was a dance of death, dictated by the contrasting armaments where one fighter sought to exploit the other's weakness. The crowd roared not just for the kill, but for the skill, the showmanship, and the spectacle of a man defying his own mortality. The final decision rested not with the combatants, but with the emperor, or the game's sponsor. The signal for mercy, thumbs up, or death, thumbs down, remains one of history's most debated gestures. For the loser, death was a grim reality. A functionary dressed as Charon, the ferryman of the dead, would deliver the final blow with a hammer to confirm the soul had departed. But the winners became superstars. Graffiti, endorsements, and massive wealth could be their reward. A champion gladiator could earn enough to buy their freedom and live a comfortable life as a free man, a rudiarius. The games were a dark mirror of Roman society, reflecting its obsession with military glory, social stratification, and the cheapness of human life. But they also celebrated courage, discipline, and the ultimate display of virtues, manly virtue. For centuries, the spectacle continued. Yet the cost, moral, financial, and spiritual, was too high. The final gladiator fight in Rome is believed to have taken place around 404 AD. The rise of Christianity, coupled with the collapse of the Western Roman Empire, gradually extinguished the fiery passion for the blood games, replacing the roar of the crowd with the silence of history. Yet the echo of the arena remains, the gladiator's story of a person stripped of their identity, forced to fight for survival, yet rising to become a legend, is a profound testament to the human spirit's ability to seek dignity in the most brutal of circumstances.